Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here in Lance's Performance Shop, Mopars.com. It is Saturday night. It is hot. It's 6:20. It's about 96 degrees out here. And last two hauls kind of a train wreck just because we kept getting interrupted, had crazy things happening. Tons of text messages right on cue. Don't know if you ever hear that, but text just came in. So anyway, we're going to try to string this one together as best we can. Again, what's kind of thrown us off our groove, we had the Vera Easter egg and then brand new product launch from Vera with the turbo and miniature stubbies and everything like that. So it sort of tore apart, our tool haul order. And subsequently I've just kind of pieced everything together. So we sorted in 34, it was like Vise System 4. 35 was just a combination of like Gedore and Philo goodness. And then what we're going to do here, it's going to be wrench heavy. So that's sort of how I just decided to throw it all together. This one I'll try to get through as quick as I can, but we do have a lot to cover. With that said, I can tell you, as always, down below in the description, scroll down, you're going to see each item listed. You're going to see a timestamp if you're interested in that item, or if you need to re-watch it, or if you just want to skip to one item in particular. Also below that, you will find the link to KC Tool where you can purchase said item. Speaking of KC Tool, if you get an order over the $100 mark, you get this German sticker pack. You can also pick it up for $9.99 standalone. My advice, just wait up, stack some tools on your wish list. One of them hits tool of the day, some more text rain in, go ahead, pick them up. Free freight over 50, sticker pack at 100. Every single order will get a bit of thanks. They're back to the Philo number 2 bits. These are the ones that we had when we first started ordering. They've got KC Tool and Philo's logo stamped on them. Pretty cool. And again, nice little touch. You can stack those up, and they do tend out to be pretty useful. So we're going to get started here. I don't have my paperwork. That would be quite the oversight, but we'll attempt to get through this as best we can. Again, the paperwork is kind of the hold-up, so my apologies on that front. But first thing up right here, it is from Gedore. Again, Alpha gloves, I love them. I've gotten them filthy, and I don't want to get this stuff dirty since we're kind of like showcasing it in pristine condition. So we're just rocking these that we picked up. These are nothing special. They're just mechanics, cheap. They're not going to last, but they look cool. If you do stuff like this, they're fine. But what we have here is from Gedore. It's their part number E-PH6-12L. It is a plastic holder. It set me back all of $373. There it is. I know what you're thinking, like, what would anyone do with that? Well, all those little pamphlets that we get, like we just got that L box in the previous tool haul, and you're like, oh, I don't want to throw that away, and I might want to consult it someday. File it away. Right here, KC Tool. We've got Colin's business card. We're just going to file that away. We could actually even turn this in the opposite manner, and then you can kind of see what you want to better. It's like a desktop Rolodex, right? And again, it's not something for everyone, but at the price point, I wanted to try it out, see what we thought of it. Obviously, cardstock, 3.5 by 5. That's the typical index card, right? It's been a long time. You used to have to buy those all the time in school. I think 3.5 by 5. At work, we use them all the time, but you never have to buy them because we got like tons, like literal tons of them. Anyway, that's what that is. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. Just kind of wanted to showcase it as best we can. So let's see here. I'd also never seen anyone else make a video on it, so that was cool. Since this does crop through multiple tool hauls, we actually had several items that were on tool of the day, believe it or not. So we're going to try to highlight those as best we can. And one of the things I want to get to first is a repeat purchase. This comes from Hazet. It's got some of the best packaging ever. It's not like stealth cool like Vera, but it's just like old school cool. It's their part number 1973. A lot of you may know it just from that. The price point is $19.33, not on sale or anything. You can sometimes find it for a lower price, and I've got to say, I've used a lot of these things. I brought this one in. There were some cool sort of like perks to it, and I gotta say, if you go right now and you price these out, I don't care if it's Summit, Jegs, Amazon. The ones on Amazon are probably going to suck. if it's like a reputable brand, even going into like the local parts store, AutoZone even, you know, these aren't exactly like cheap, you know, like you go in there and you're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get one. Now Harbor Freight, yeah, you can get one, you know, relatively cheap, but it's not of this caliber. It's just like the traditional dog dish one, right? And some of the dog dish ones are even approaching this price point, but I don't care what gimmick it is, what, you know, company that sells the same thing under 4 different names. This is actually a good buy. And again, if you investigate these, or you just brought one in for 25 bucks and you see this and you're like, that was $19, that's a better deal. That's why we have another one, okay? And the beauty of this one is I was using it tearing the truck down. I got to a point where it's like, I try to keep the fasteners kind of in order and per bank and everything, you know, the cylinder heads and all that jazz. Firewall's nice, spacious, right? You know, or your fender well, whatever you're using. It makes sense to have one per side for like teardowns of that nature. In most cases, you know, like if we're just going to install like a new throttle body, it doesn't matter. But, you know, like when you're sitting over there and you're like pulling off everything, you know, like sequentially, right bank and left bank, it makes sense to have two. So that's sort of my logic here. And again, the packaging, let's just take a minute to appreciate it. I won't go into all the detail I did the first time. In terms of like testing it and seeing what all we think and what we can stick in it. You can see there they're putting it on the engine lift. The magnet is absurdly strong. This is a thick rubber mat. It actually adheres through that. Nothing crazy on the flip side, but the color, a lot of people are going to knock it. Oh, that's so stupid, just give me blue or red, you know, why don't they do yellow? That's one of their colors. I can tell you right now, this is a quirky color, but I love it. It's like the Hazet teal. This is the color that I think they should do their hats in t-shirts. You know, they need to maximize these like quirky, instantly recognizable colors. It's not a bad thing. You know, it sort of kind of goes in with the brand name, right? The magnet, I do want to point this out because it's one of the most important features. A, I've told you it's strong, but B, it is covered, all right? And that's important because then if you throw this on the exterior of a customer car or something, you know, you're less likely to screw it up. I wouldn't recommend you do that, though. The coolest thing, this can hang, or it can be supported if you need it to, but it's just that you can get your hand, I have big hands and I can get in there, you know, right? There's no issue. I don't have to like fiddle around, you know, with all the fasteners in the bottom. We get to take advantage of this. And then let's say we're up at the front of the truck and you just pitch one in, there it goes. So I can sing its praises all day long. Again, I've got the other video. It's got the finger grooves. I won't waste your time on it, but I assure you, I've done my research. The way this one performs and the price point, it's not got, typically like with Hazet, there's kind of like a premium for German tools, some of them. And then with Hazet, there's like the ultra premium price tier. You're like stepping up into, you know, Snap-on territory or something. And that's why you don't see many of their tools. You know, like you're more likely to see Vise and Vera, you know, on the stray Gedore or Stahlwille, depending on what someone's doing. Hazet stuff is just expensive. It costs more than the other brands in most cases. Not all the time, but in most cases. And this is one of those things, you know, I realize, you know, it's not like state of the art. They're not producing them. They did their homework. They made a good magnetic pan, and that's why I have my second one. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But on that note, let's jump in, sticking with kind of the automotive side of things if we can. Let me ruffle my papers over here. It's going to be on page 2. This was tool of the day. This is something I'd actually wanted for a very long time. It might be one of the things I was the most excited about in the original tool haul. And then I kind of just had to piece it together. It's from Stahlwille. As you should know, we're amassing a decent selection of Stahlwille stuff, and that's because it hasn't disappointed me. Their part number ST7. 2033101. That's actually KC Tools part number. Stahlwille, much more simple than that. 12718. And what is that, my friends? Well, if I tilt this sucker over, it's a big bag, you know, it's got to be something good, right? You're thinking, oh, you got one of those idiotic screwdrivers again. What is wrong with you? Nope, not in this case. This is just a gasket scraper. But I've got their trim tool recently. It's the same handle style, which as you can see gets ridiculous. You saw this. I did not touch the handle. This was in the bag. I don't know what happens with these. They come in varying degrees of like debris filled handle styles. With a bare hand, you certainly feel it. It'll usually rub off and get on you. But I can tell you, I've actually grown to like this handle. I prefer their 3K line, you know, like for their screwdrivers and everything. Not 3K, whatever it is, the one Vit makes. But this isn't a bad handle, particularly when it gets bigger for things like this. One of the first items I wish listed on KC Tool was a Gedore gasket scraper. It got discontinued before I could order it, and so I was always wanting to bring one in. You can see right here on the shaft, made in Germany. Cutting edge may not look impressive. It actually doesn't look impressive in the camera, but I think that's because they've got the matte chrome texture on here. It's pretty heavy, but I'm feeling it by my index finger there. I think we're going to be just fine. So I don't know about you, but I use gasket scrapers a lot, and cheap ones suck. So I'm optimistic that this one will deliver the goods. Again, standard price $37.28. That's why I haven't bought this. Like, I've known of this and I've wanted it, but that's hard to justify, okay, for a gasket scraper, because you can get something that's pretty decent quality for about half that price. However, this was tool of the day, and that's exactly what tool of the day did, is cut this thing in half, essentially. So $19.99. I'm not going to argue with that. Getting a gasket scraper made in Germany with quality that I'm familiar with, I will take it. In the case of this one, they don't have like an icon or anything. They just kind of have this part number there. But Stahlwille gasket scraper, tool of the day pricing. Sign me up. If it comes up available again, I'll probably buy another one. And at that point in time, I think we'll be good on gasket scraper front. So with that said, let's stick with Stahlwille, and more importantly, my friends, let's stick with steels on tool of the day. So this is one of those ones. Again, I knew these existed. Sort of was like, yeah, you know, I'm not gonna pay that price for these. Well, I never really thought this was something that would ever come up on tool of the day. It just didn't seem like it would. It's right here. The bag is, anyway. You're going to have to wait for it. Part number from Stahlwille 13148. Again, KC Tool slightly different, but I'll have it linked down below. This would typically cost $31.20, right? Over 30 bucks, which I can't really justify for these, regardless of how good they are. Unless I used them and they were amazing and someone stole them and I wanted to replace them. But initial purchase, I'm never doing it. Not at $31. Tool of the day, though, make these suckers 18. I'll roll that dice. Let's bring it on in here, brown truck. We're going to see what we think of it. So, Stahlwille 13148, $18. You want to take any guesses? Huh? Not trying to point to anything. Oh, yeah. You're thinking, oh, I remember you said we might see more of those Vise Craftsman shears from that one of those previous tool hauls. This is why. When this came on tool of the day, the Vise ones, for what it's worth, are the more economical, the more price budget-friendly ones. The Knipex we've had, I've got a great story with those. We're going to save it for the standalone video. Needless to say, I'm not disappointed with them. It's just one of those things. I'm like, you know, what else? You know, does everything stack up as something possibly better? And when this was tool of the day for 18, I thought, you know what? Let's throw the Vise on there. We can do a proper sheet out of these things. I'm curious we can get good use out of them, hopefully. The Stahlwille has some features the others don't. We're not going to, again, go into crazy detail here, but the color of green is a little darker than usual. Not that that's a deal breaker. They look really nice. Got the Stahlwille logo. You got the part number. You've got the HRC 56. So you kind of know it's a decent blade. It's a cable shear, again, utility shear, scissors, whatever you want to call them, but again, it can cut cable. That's what it's intended to do. It also has these nubs here. It's got the really nice overmold. I mean, that is not slipping. That's almost like you're running on tire tread, right? My hands fit decently. Again, as always, I would prefer bigger D-rings, but this is more than functional. And again, for $18, sign me up. Essentially, this is why you check tool of the day. All right, this is a classic example. This would be over 30 bucks. This is close to 40. Okay, I'm not touching either one of those unless I have prior experience type of thing and know that it's great and worth it, you know, over cheaper alternatives. But getting both of these at half off basically means I got the gasket scraper and the scissors for less than the price that I would typically have to give for the gasket scraper. And 2 for 1, you have more fun. That's all there is to it there. So I was thrilled to get both of those on tool of the day. Again, it would have made sense to have that with the Vise shears, but having to divide up the tool hauls because of all the Vera stuff that dropped on us, just made sense to me to kind of just throw these here, keep the Vise one all Vise, and then sort of mix and match from this point. So there we are with those items. Now let me see here. That sheet we still need. This sheet we're done with. I can get it out of my life. And I guess we're ready now. I told you this was going to be like a heavy wrench video. And I suppose we should get started with that. So again, not going to spend a ton of time on these. I'm going to try to make this to where you just see it and you sort of get a feel of it, right? So from Heyco, which again, I think people sleep on Heyco, and I'm not sure why. I've got 3 wrenches. We'll just go ahead and throw them down here. One of them got a bigger bag than the other 2. So this is their Maxline wrench. If you're thinking, I've heard you mention that, haven't I? Well, you have, and that's because when we were doing like our initial wrench kind of synopsis and testing, I brought in a Maxline. The prices are fantastic. They're like stupid cheap. They're like you could walk into Home Depot and buy a standalone Husky cheap almost, okay? And so the Maxline that I brought in was 10 millimeter, and I don't have it here because it just stays in the Challenger. In the trunk, in fact, because when I have to do stuff with the electrical system or the stereo, it's 10 millimeter. The offset end is perfect for the battery in that car, and that's where it's just kind of camped out and kind of made a life for itself. And that was my first experience with the Maxline wrenches. And they're not a typical wrench in the sense that they have an offset. So we'll just go kind of run through these here as quick as we can. Heyco's part number 4100130, which I hope we're opening, looks to be. It is a 13 millimeter Maxline wrench. Now, some of you will like this, some of you will hate it. I personally kind of prefer the matte chrome. It's just more my style. This would be sort of more Americana for you, right? Chrome vanadium, and it's got a polish on it. It's sort of tool truck style. You know, to each their own, but nothing too crazy on the business end, right? But we come down here, you've got the size stamped in a circle. It's going to be oriented kind of to be racked. You can see Heyco, they've got the Maxline. Then you see Germany, they've got the size stamped again in the same direction as the previous one. Flipping it over, you've got chrome vanadium, you've got 13, and you've got 13, right? And so you're thinking, okay, what's the box end? Is it 6 points, spline drive? What's special? No, it's 12 point, but it is offsets. And again, that offset can come in really handy in certain situations. So that's where we are. Now, how well do I actually like the Maxline wrenches? Really well, especially when you consider, I don't know, you know, keep in mind this is KC tool, this is German tools. These are supposedly made in Ireland. I think I did consult with Colin on the Rolodex back there, and I was like, is that really made in Ireland type of a deal? And he said, yeah, you know, it is. So regardless, I don't care where they come from, they're good wrenches at a ridiculously good price. $10.52, that's what I paid for this. That's what you can pay for. You can go right now and get a 13 millimeter Maxline for $10.52. If you deal with 13s or 10s, or you need a backup wrench for, you know, whatever you're spinning all the time, bring one of these in. You know, just have it be your oddball, kind of not in a set, and see what you think of it. And I think for the price point in particular, I don't know anyone that would really complain about that. So up next we have Heyco's part number 4100140. As you can see, this is their Maxline. What do you think it is? It's the 14 millimeter. That's right. Now I know a lot of you metric folk, anyone big into like imports and European stuff, you're like, oh, you don't need the 14, you need 13, 15, 17, 19, German efficiency, sucker. Well, you know, not over here. So, story on this one. Why do I need the 14? Why did I feel the need to shell out $10.73? You're going to pay 21 extra cents for a slightly larger Heyco Maxline. Well, here's why. On the truck, tearing it down, everything on the block should be old school SAE 9/16, right? On the front, and with some of the more modern things like a throttle body and your accessory drives and everything, it's sort of a mix. And if you go online, something beyond me is that the teardown manuals don't spec out. They're like, remove the bolts. They don't tell you the size of the bolt. They don't tell you the size of the wrench or the socket you need. They don't tell you jack squat anything, which is just mind-boggling that you would go to all that trouble to tear a vehicle down, put it back together, and not thoroughly document everything. It's just, yeah, I don't even know where to start with that one. But I'm thinking this is a twofold issue. I'm thinking part of it could be metric, and I'm thinking part of it is all my 9/16 sockets, outside of like some newer like impact stuff, they're Craftsman, and they've been used a lot, a whole lot. The set I got in the rally box back when I was a kid, you had like 6-point and 12-point. And there were quite a few bolts that like the 9/16 fit, but a 14mm fit way better, and I had better bite, and I was able to break it free easier. And of course, that's this is one of those sizes, like 5/8 and 16, that's one of the reasons you have trouble finding some 16mm stuff. Is like, well, just buy 5/8 moron. 9/16 and 14mm don't necessarily overlap, but they're really close, like close enough that's you can do what I was doing and basically interchange your sockets and wrenches. And that's the main reason for picking up the 14. Obviously, if I ran into situations where I was using 12s and 11s, they would be here. I've not run into that. I'm past the point in my life where I feel that I have to have a complete set of something that I'm not going to use all the time. 10, I'll use it. 13, we'll see use. 14, turns out I'm going to use it. So the next size up is 15. The 17 and the 19, I do kind of plan to bring those in. They're wish listed items, and the reason for that, they're priced fantastic. And it's something like, let's say this winds up on Tool of the Day again, or something similarly that I've wanted, and it's like 50% off. But the problem is, it's like a pair of pliers, and we're sitting at like the $38 mark. And it's a situation where if I check out now, we've got to pay $14 in freight, and we spend $52. Makes more sense to me, and I stress this all the time. Take your $38 item, add a $12 wrench, and get free freight. It's a no-brainer, and that's how I operate. So eventually, at some point in time, you'll probably be seeing the 17 and 19mm Maxlines come in. Do I like Maxlines enough to bring in an SAE set? Because I would use that. Yes. Why haven't I done that? Is it a price? Is it availability, out of stock, just not convenient? What's the deal? They don't make one, and I am completely bummed. I've asked twice now. So I've kind of bothered calling with them. I'm like, hey, there's a Heyco, talking about doing that Maxline and the fractional stuff for us over here, and they're not. And I guess they probably don't think they'd sell them any. Maybe they don't think they have like a big enough market footprint. They do make standard wrenches that don't have sort of the offset. This would be Maxline specific. They do make standard wrenches, in SAE, imperial, fractional sizes, whatever you want to call it. But I would be all over the set of the Maxlines because of the offset. I think it would be a great compliment. If you've got like your go-to straight wrenches that you love, and you could pick these up for a really good price, and it's a complete set and it's a quality wrench, I think they'd actually sell. That's just me personally, but hey, at least we can take advantage of it in metric sizes. So this one from Heyco, 4100, you guessed it, 150. 15mm Maxline. This one jumps up a little bit. It's 1261. So 1052, 1073, 1261. Jeez. They are beautiful wrenches. I have zero complaints, and again, I'm picking these up because of the performance of the 10mm. I did want to point out the 14 is not like stamped or etched. It actually looks really good there, but it's not like as deep as the 13 and the 15. It's something, if you were here in person, you'd see it. I don't want to dwell on the details, and at the price point, yeah, it's irrelevant, really. So there we are with those wrenches. Now, are we done with Heyco in this video? Absolutely not. And again, don't really see videos on Heyco stuff. That's why I brought it in, and like I said, it turned out I liked it, and it's a super good buy. And it's just one of those things. It's almost like when I was a kid and you could go in Sears and just like buy a wrench that was reasonably priced and good quality. So we're going to stick with the metric stuff here real quick, which will make the majority of you very happy. This is from Heyco. It is their part number. Let's phrase it this way. This is their part number 4751415. That'll make more sense, and you'll see why. You know that I mentioned I like having the offsets. Well, here, my friends, is a double offset box wrench. And you're thinking, that thing's probably pretty expensive. It was obviously a bit more than this, but $25.87 for a deep offset, I don't think that's bad. This is more of the matte chrome like you'd have on their standard wrenches. I have 0 complaints. Again, you can see 15 stamped, 14 stamped. You've got chrome vanadium in the middle. Flipping her over, 15, 475, that would be the line of wrenches. Heyco, Germany, and 14. So there's a reason that I brought in the deep offset and a couple of other wrenches that you're going to see, and that's because of the exhaust manifolds. Tearing the truck down, there was one bolt. It wasn't really necessarily a rust issue. I feel like if my thumb wasn't like messed up and was like full functional, I feel like, a year ago this time, I would have been able to just grab that stupid thing with my thumb and just twisted it. And I tried really hard to do that, and I couldn't do it. And I wound up wasting a ton of time. I'm talking one bolt, and it was on the collector. It wasn't even into the heads. It was on the collector, which is really sad. But I spent a lot of time trying to get sockets and extensions and wobbles and long reach this and hold it from the backside that, and it was ridiculous. And if I would have had a combination of this and maybe some of the other wrenches you're about to see, I would have saved myself literally about 2 hours, and that's unfortunate, and that's well worth the asking price of $25.87 here. Again, do I have a complete set of these? No. Do I own any other double offset box end wrenches? Absolutely not. What I plan to do is, as I come across either a situation to tack them on for free freight, we will, or just situations where we need them, I'll go ahead and throw them in. But there we have it. That is my deep offset for primarily the 14, to be honest, because again, I was in that funky groove between 14 and 9/16. Speaking of 9/16, let's run with the 475 line, but let's come in now and make that be 4756619, which that's not quite as fluid as the metric part number, right? See it right there. Now the price point for roughly the same wrench is way better. It's $12.61, or I'm sorry, $14.28, so almost half the price. There it is. It's the Heyco double box end deep offset wrench, and they did a really good job grinding it down. It looks like we're going to be able to get into tight spaces. Again, 12 point. Right here though, this is something of note. Like if I had to complain about anything, this would be it. If you look at the top one, which is easy to do when it covers the bottom one. I'm trying to block out everything underneath us. If you're looking at this and you're like, yeah, I can read Heyco, and I see the 15, you said that's 475, I can see that. Oh, there's Germany and 14 on the other end. And you're thinking, okay, so you've got the same side of the wrench, right? I sure do, because Heyco's right underneath it. You can kind of make out 475. Here's the issue I have, all right? It's really hard to read the sizes on this SAE one. It's just not as clean of a stamp, right? It's a situation like, it's almost like if you're going to stamp, your engine block or something. So if anyone steals it, you can go around to that pad on the block and say, it's mine, type of a deal. You're going to take that hammer and you're just going to, snap down on it, right? This is almost like, your employee is going to steal it from you, or some crook in your shop, and he's like, oh, yes, I'll strike that, sir, and he just baby hits it. It's basically that type of a thing. You can technically, especially when you have a good example of what it should be, you can easily discern what it says. But like right here, let's get the black glove of Gedore here. You can see the 15 pretty good, right? It's kind of funky lighting. You really can't even see the 9/16. You sort of in the right light can. Let me zoom in for you. Okay, this is making a real good example. So the 15 is deep. I kid you not, right here where my finger's grazing, there's a 9/16 there, but you can't really tell. The 475, that's very easy to see right there, You can sort of make it out if I get it in the right light for you. But see where that is sort of like etched in? This is almost like it's just a part of the cast. It's almost like a superfluous one. Heyco in the middle, exact same issue. Now, is this a situation where this just isn't as crisp, it isn't maintained as well? Is it a situation where they just, you know, do way heavy of a coat on this of the matte chrome when they dip it? I don't know, but you can see again, there's Germany, and then look at Germany there. I mean, it's clear as day. This is beautiful. That's well done. This is like, huh? It's like, what's going on here, buddy? Same thing, the 14 and then the 1/2 inch. You can see the 1/2 inch okay. We just maxed out our recording, but as I was saying, you can see the 14 really well. You can see the 1/2 inch okay, but when you look at the 14, that's so easy to see, and you look at the 1/2 inch, it's almost like the 1/2 inch has like half the profile height. And that's why it's so hard to see. Coming back over here to the 15, you can sort of see the 9/16 again if I get everything lined up just right. It's either an issue where this is like worn or it's just coated a little bit more. I don't know. I didn't bring in another one to, like, you know, compare because I didn't know it was going to be an issue. But the bottom line is I'm going to know what the wrenches are. It was a really good price. And, it should make my life easier, and I can't fault it for that. So I have not used their deep offsets just yet, but I can tell you I'm excited to, and if they perform anything like the Maxlines, we're not going to have any complaint at all. So that's fantastic news on that front. And again, typically, like with any other German brand, this would be like $100 easy in wrenches, right? And with this, it's not. It's like, ooh, that's affordable. And that's kind of the highlight point here. That's the selling point. And these are specialty wrenches as well. They're not just, you know, plain Jane cheap stuff. So pretty, like I said, pretty happy with my Heyco purchases throughout the times. Coming in now, I've got to find, I tell you what, we'll continue on the wrench because there is one item that I forgot that we had here. So let's stick with Stahlwille, okay? Or no, let's go to Hazet. You know, now I've got your attention. We're throwing some cool names around, some heavy hitters, all right? And I just have to figure out where I set these down so I wouldn't lose them. And apparently I have done, no, we had the Hazet box on them. Beautiful. Makes perfect sense now. All right, so did I say we're going to do Hazet? I guess we will, because the Stahlwille one just slid out in that chaos of bags over there. So what we have here, part number 440-10 from Hazet. If you read it, double open end wrench. Price point on this is $18.10. Again, this is, think of it as the Hazet tax when you get prices on some upcoming items, right? We're going to go ahead and drop this out. I have not held this one, which I was excited to do. And what this is, it is just an angled wrench. It's double open end, yes. It's all 10 millimeters, both sides. But where this would be kind of a straight traditional outlet for the wrench, this is angled off. And that is a big deal. If I flip this around, you can appreciate kind of the branding there. Hazet 440 electric. You got 10 stamped nicely in line with the opening of the wrench. That's the way I like it. 10 right there. Flipping her over, you don't have any sizes, but you've got Hazet 440 Germany. So 440, as you know, being a Mopar guy, this is almost worth the Hazet tax, just based. There were Facom, whatever, you know, wrenches they are. They have the 440 line. I mean, that's like a selling point to me, you know. That's like when Channel Lock does that. They got 440 and a 426. Is that coincidence? I don't know. But it makes the pliers that much better. So this is what we brought in from Hazet. And again, this little sucker here was $18.10, which is, not gonna lie, pretty expensive. But the reason for doing that, I wanted to compare it to some other ones we were bringing in. And I'm trying to pick this one up because from Stahlwille, this is going to be from their 12A line. I believe when you see a 12 after any Stahlwille product number, it's going to indicate like America or North America, American marketplace, that other continent, the one that uses the weird fractions, whatever they ballpark it as. If you thought the Hazet was expensive, and keep in mind it's a little tiny 10 millimeter, this one right here from Stahlwille set me back $19.52. That said, this coupled with these deep offset box end wrenches, I don't care. I really don't, because I know that between the two of them, I would have saved myself 2+ hours of work. frustrating, non-progressing work, and that is worth it to me. So this one right here, you got Stahlwille 12, you got 9/16, just like the Hazet stamped it, in line with that one, and in line with our angle. Flipping her over, no identification on this side, but you've got electric and Germany. This really matches the profile of the Stahlwille wrenches that I have very well. It feels great. Got the 9/16. Gonna go to town with it. So there we have that. Now we're not done with the wrenches just yet, but we are done with this sheet of paper. Hallelujah. I'm gonna throw that to the side, and I gotta find our next two items. We do have a couple more things I'm gonna show you, but 2 wrenches is all we're down to. And you know what, let's just throw these right there, because you can kind of get a feel for them that way. Now that's the KC tool part number. We're gonna go with a shorter one, and you know what, I guess it would be 813, because 8 would be their line of their electric wrenches, if you will. They call these their double-ended, not engines, got too much motor stuff on my mind, double-ended midget spanners, right? And the catch is, of course, it is angled as well. So you can see the branding from Gedore. You've got their number right there, and that is an 8 if you're curious. That's again going to be the whole line. And then they've got 13 stamped in line, 13 here. Flipping it over, didn't follow with the stamping, is the same thing we saw from the other 2 manufacturers. And then you've got Gedore and made in Germany. So they're all roughly the same thing, just branched out. Gedore, I've found, has like really tight tolerances, or it's just a situation where maybe they like go a little bit heavy, like after they've kind of cut and polished, then they do their chrome. I don't know what exactly it would be, but that's why, like with the Stahlwille, you'll see like that polished finish in there, as it's been ground. And then with the Gedore, it's got this same grippy texture on the inside of the jaws, and I kind of think like whatever mill thickness that would be is kind of where this fits the head just fine, but it fits it really tight. I could be mistaken, maybe they just changed the standards a little bit, I don't know, but that's sort of what I'm thinking. So this one right here from Gedore, it's very reasonable, I must say. $9.87. Keep in mind, this is way bigger than the tin from Hazet that was $18, and this is about half the price for a lot more wrench. And on that note, if you run with my 9/16 and 14mm story from earlier, you can figure out what we have here. This one is again from Gedore, because again their price was really good on these, and given my experiences with their wrenches, I figured we would be safe. But if we flip her around, you can see Gedore. It's got vanadium on that. We got the number 8. No size is stamped, but when we flip it, you can see the 14 here, the 14 there, number 8, Gedore, Germany. So there we are. This one was, let me find her for you, $11.94. Again, not something a lot of metric people might pick up. You might skip over this size, but for me, in the overlap with 9/16, I've covered my bases. That's never going to happen to me again. I'm never going to sit there and think, you know, if I only had another 6-inch extension, maybe we could do this. It was just a freak deal on the passenger side collector off the exhaust manifold. You know, it spun free, but then you kind of got like the last little bit of the bolt where there was some rust and debris and junk. And again, you couldn't turn it, and you can't come in from the top side, you know, as one person and have access between, you know, like the firewall, the suspension on this side, the wheel well snaking up more. It doesn't happen. And so you have to come in and rely on the catch from the top side that the factory installed and try to break her free from the bottom. And between these angled wrenches and these deep offsets, I'm golden. And like I said, that's why there's not a complete set. These actually I've considered completing, just because I do think there's going to be a lot of uses for that angled head. That's why in a Tecton video, you saw me bring one in. That's where we got a 9/16 Tecton. I'm trying to kind of feel out what route we want to go. Those are American made, by the way. Now, before I forget, before I leave you hanging, before I, you know, don't get the last laugh here, if you will. Remember this business card holder that we brought in that holds Colin's card and the Gedore tool trolley thing, right? Well, check this out. It's actually designed for small wrenches. The problem on the website, if you check reviews on this, people are like, oh, it doesn't fit any of my wrenches. And that's because they're trying, like, they buy it with the expectation, like, There's a version that holds 12, which is what this one is, and I think there's a version that holds 8 wrenches. Most people are seeing this and they're like, wow, you know, $3 for a piece of German plastic to hold my wrenches, sign me up. And then they get it and they're like, they drop in their, you know, 17, and then, you know, the 15 fits and the 13 fits and the 12. And then you get to a point like down here, the last 6 or so slots, and none of your wrenches fit. And then you come in and you're like, oh, this stupid thing doesn't work. That's because it was kind of designed for these. I think it was actually designed for their number 6s, which... is that their, I guess they call them midget. It'd be like the stubby open-ended. I kind of think that's right. Don't hold me to that. This is number 8s, but check this out. Okay, so the 14, which that's the biggest one that I have here, fits fine, of course, in the top slot. But coming down here to the very smallest slot, it is a press fit, which testament to that right there. It will fit. Bottom line, these you can line with these number 8 wrenches from Gedore, and you're going to be just fine. One of the reasons we brought in the other brands, we've got the Stahlwille right here, the 9/16. Again, clearly it's going to drop in up top. It'll be a drop fit all the way down, like what, 3 slots up even, and then in the smallest slot, if you press it in, again, this is fine. Okay, this is perfectly acceptable for me. And then of course with our 10mm Hazet, which does look a little thicker, it's just little, well, we can actually press it in. So same thing there, you're not going to come out. And of course anywhere else up in the range you can drop it in. It's kind of the length, it's sort of you get a good feel right there, right? This is like the perfect length for it. If you get it in some of these others, it might be kind of an awkward fit. But that's actually what this is. It's not a business card holder. I'm not that stupid. Although you could do that. It would be a terrible business card holder. It's really inefficient. If a fan comes on or the breeze blows, it's all gone. It's designed for these small wrenches. That's why we have that. So, haha, you know, that's hopefully someone thought it was funny. Or, you know, it's sitting there, you know, at the start of the video and quit watching and leaves a comment about what an idiot I am, and then someone else can come in and say, hey, you need to watch the end of the video, buddy. And again, for your convenience, I'll have a timestamp. But that brings us to our final item of this fairly long tool haul, and it's not a wrench. That's right. Save something different for the end here. Unless I'm forgetting something, which very well could be the case, as scattered as today has been. This is from Knipex. It is their part number 4134-165. I've got to find it here somewhere. There she is. Price point on these suckers was $31.84. Now, there's a reason I went ahead and pulled the trigger on these, and it is because, keep in mind, a little bit of time has passed since some of this stuff came in. What this is, it's this box right here. Yep, it's a beautiful box. No, box wasn't included, but it was actually this pair of pliers. And the reason for that, okay, these are, what do they call these? They've got an interesting name. Everything, it seems, with German companies like this, where you might call them like NeedleNose pliers or NeedleNose Vise grips, is probably going to be like the American term, right? These would be long nose grip pliers by Knipex's terminology. They're going to be 6.5 inches, which is a really good size for them. The reason that I bought Knipex, number one, Gedore, which I tell you, their 10-inch grip pliers, which are essentially their Vise grips, the ones with the blue overmolded handle that's so really, really perfectly engineered. And I don't use that term lightly. I mean, that is a really good tool. They offered these, but, you know, they were more expensive, and it was a situation where I thought, well, hey, Knipex, you can't go wrong with Knipex, you know, let me just do that. And it was saving me money at the same time, right? I think the Gedores were like 40-ish, somewhere in there. And I'm like, oh, it'll be a good comparison. We can kind of see, maybe then I'll want to jump into like their, you know, Knipex has a red-handled version similar to the Gedore ones. I was like, that'll be a good stepping stone, right? And so we brought these in. And there again, you can see the part number, made in Germany right there. You can see the rivets and pins and everything. It looks a lot like, you know, just traditional Vise grips that you'd have, you know, in an old shop, or that you can run down to Home Depot and get. No padded handle, nothing fancy. This is a superior design in my opinion. You press up to release, right? You don't have to like press down and pinch your fingers or anything stupid like that. The problem I had They are Knipex, right? And I hold them to very high standards with pliers. That's pretty much all they do. I realize there are some exceptions to that, you know, like insulated wrenches and stuff, but $30 is pretty expensive for these. But granted, you know, like your $6 to $9 ones are typically complete pieces of garbage. That's very well may not clamp and hold what you want them to do the first time you use them. So you kind of factor that in, and you think, hey, you know, I'd rather have a good pair, you know, for like 15 to 25-ish, right? Now, these are a little past that, but you think it's Knipex, you know, just do it. Just, you know, buy once, cry once, right? You know, whatever. So that's what my logic was. But I gotta say, I, you know, have not used these yet, but my initial impression is I was like, no. It's like a bad joke. This, I don't know how to really describe it, but like, there's quite a bit of play. Like, I don't expect that from Knipex. I don't know if they're all like that. I don't know if this is like a freak limit. I think it's probably going to work just fine, and it's going to be better than the El Cheapo ones. But it's one of those deals, like, I just expected more of Knipex, and I was kind of disappointed with them. I did try gripping some things, and I wasn't like super impressed. Also, when these things arrive, good lord, you would think it was one of those ones that had like a hex key in here, because these were tight. So luckily, you know, you don't pinch your fingers, because that is a better design. But I don't know, you know, the jury is still out on these, but I will tell you this, there will be a follow-up on these once we've used them and kind of have some seat time with them. But I was, you know, like the magnetic lifter from the last tool haul, and I was like, I didn't really expect much, and then like it comes over here and it picks up the freaking oil pressure sensor socket, and we're like, you know, this thing's amazing. With these, like, it's Knipex. I paid the extra money. You know, I could have gotten something way cheaper. Could have gotten like 4 pairs for the price of this one. Maybe 2 of them or 1 of them would have at least not been a complete waste. But at that price point, like, I'm expecting plier perfection. You know, I don't want it to be a situation where it's like, yep, I paid the extra $10 to get Knipex, and I'm not happy. So we're gonna have to see, but I will tell you right now, you'll see more of it. And as testament to that, I brought these stupid things in. These are from Sunex, which again, I've got quite a bit of Sunex stuff. Most of it is perfectly fine. It's mainly sockets and some really old screwdrivers, which I didn't really use much. That's stuff my granddad had. But I thought, you know what? I want to see how those compare to something cheap. You know, and this, if I'm thinking correctly, was like a $9 pair from Sunex, which is probably better than some of the cheaper ones, to their credit. I believe they're made in Taiwan. They've got a lifetime warranty. One thing that's not better is that stupid design right there, which I cannot stand. But when you get it, it's got sort of like the same design and sort of the same play. Obviously, it's strapped to the product card. We're going to kind of save it if we can. I may have to use these. If I do, it will be the Knipex, so I can say, well, you know, they don't seem that good, but ooh, you know, boy, do they bite down, something along those lines. But again, I'm not throwing these in the garbage by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just, Knipex, you very rarely pay the extra money and get it in and say, well, wish I wouldn't have done that. You're usually like, yep, this is why I did it. This is why I spent the extra $5, you know, to go Knipex. And the jury is going to be out on this. And I will tell you that these, the little Sunexes over there, they won't be the only friends coming to play, because it's one of those things, like, this to me, it shouldn't be a question. It should be like the cream of the crop. No question asked, you know, type of a deal. If I brought in the Sunexes and I'm like, there's a little bit more play in that than I would have liked, one of you, and rightfully so, could have said, well, hey, you know, if you're going to use those, you know, frequently, and, you know, you've been around the block a few times, you should have just paid the extra money for Knipex. And that's what we did. And then, you know, I'm kind of on the fence with them. So, like I said, there was a little bit of testing done. They weren't really like used, but they were sort of experimented with, I'll say that. And, again, like I said, you know, this stuff comes in and I don't get to film right away. So, I mean, what's a guy to do, you know? Needless to say, if you're excited about this, or if you're thinking, oh, I didn't know they made those, I want to see how they stack up. And I assure you, these is, even if they turn out to be disappointing, even in the testing, they're still going to be better than like the cheap crud you can get at the box stores, right? Or they should be. If they're not, I'll be really ticked off. But There are a couple of things I know they're superior, you know, to the cheap brands, and I'm not going to cover here. We'll hit that later, but stay tuned. I'll just leave it at that. So this was a tool haul, again, comprised of 3 or 4 standalone tool hauls, and I just felt like it went well. Obviously, the wrenches make sense. Stahlwille tool of the day sort of tied in because I didn't want to make like a 2-product tool review, you know, type of thing. This was just an old throw-in item, which is really, really, really nice in terms of magnetic part trays. We got our business card / wrench holder back there, and we got a pair of hopefully going to be really good, really long-lasting Knipex. What do they call them? Flat nose, long nose grip pliers. Or, again, NeedleNose Vise grips, as I'll probably accidentally continuously refer to them as. So, with that said, I can finally clean some stuff up. I can dare raise the door and see if any bugs fly in on me again. Get back to work on the truck, kind of get some boxes cut down, some stuff shifting around, get a motor pulled, have all kinds of fun stuff going down. So, with that said, I do hope you enjoy. I hope you learned a little something. Again, maybe you were unaware Heyco had Maxline wrenches. Maybe you didn't know they had something as elaborate as the, you know, deep offsets. I don't know. Again, if you want to go with Heyco, bring one in as a test. Again, you know, it's a situation where if you've got, you know, 10 millimeter, you know, and you've got spacers, and you're always having to put one on the back side, and you've got like your fancy ratcheting one up here, and you've got, you know, you need the beater wrench on the back end. Bring one in, see what you think of it, because again, at the price point, you will be doing yourself a huge favor if you turn out to like it, particularly if you find it's better than something else that you've been using. Tool of the day on these, not to brag, but that's a sweet score. And hopefully some of you cashed in on it as well. That said, I'm going to get a drink because I'm about to lose my voice. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. Of course, you can follow along Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Subscribe if you have not. That should keep you up to date with all the latest. You might still have to ring the bell twice or 3 times, jump your car across the creek, land it through the fire ring, save the girl from the castle, and get back and be arrested. But hey, at some point in time, you should be notified by YouTube. If not, every Saturday morning around 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, Texas time. Might be dropping some midweek videos here and there. It's something I've talked about for quite a while, so it might already be happening by the time you see this. But anyway, I'm excited to get this stuff in use. The angled wrenches and the offset box ends are very welcome. And like I said, that's something I'll probably sort of piece out and build up, you know, bit by bit. Again, it's not something I have to have, but, you know, in situations where it would have been super helpful and saved 2 hours, I'm going to get it. Never be in that predicament again. So as that happens, hopefully we can kind of plan ahead and kind of like, we're going to need the 7/16 half inch, you know, and bring it in before we were actually encountered with losing all that time. But if not, you know, we'll make do. And like I said, maybe eventually over the years we'll build out complete sets. But for now, I need it. I know what it's for. I'm good with that. I don't have to have, you know, all the... I kind of like the idea of mixing brands, especially in sort of like random wrench sets like the open double-ended angled ones, you know? And that is the benefit to the Tecton. Instead of being straight here, it's a 30 and a 60. Which is the same thing Snap-on does. But with these, you know, it's nice. You've got the angle, but again, if you're buying this, you're probably getting it specifically for the angle. It makes sense to have this open-end straight also be angled at a different position. You know, just throwing that out there. But, who knows, maybe it'll happen at some point in time. That said, I'm going to quit rambling. I hope you enjoyed. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I will catch you back here for more action from the shop.